Fun.
Go. Hello, everyone. Welcome into our Kroger Kickoff. My name is Brandon Adams. We're presented tonight by Kroger, fresh for everyone. We're standing here at the Tate Center parking lot and a few minutes away from the start of the DawgWalk for Georgia, Missouri. And I tell you, the atmosphere already feels amazing around Sanford Stadium. Not too cold yet. Expect to be a lot colder as the night progresses. Not too cold as of yet. Almost like that classic traditional football weather. And there are really hundreds upon hundreds, if not thousands, gathered around here. Huge crowd, one of the biggest crowds we've seen from a DawgWalk thus far this season. Everybody trying to get a look at the dogs when they make their way onto the field here in a few minutes, coming by us. You'll get a chance to see that as part of our Kroger Kickoff coming up in just a few minutes. As I said before, of course, we appreciate Kroger making this all possible. Big day around the city of Atlanta when it comes to Kroger's. It was that holiday open house to kind of kick off that holiday season. I know a lot of folks already gone to Kroger to sort of schedule those holiday meals, take a lot of the work off your plate, and get ready to enjoy some time with family and friends. Also, plenty when it comes to the decorations and everything else. A lot of folks getting stocked up at the Kroger near you. And so today was a big day doing that. Of course, we appreciate them being a part of our Kroger Kickoff as well. We'll take a lot of your comments on Facebook and YouTube, and we're a little less than 10 minutes away from the DawgWalk. So time to hear from you, your thoughts about what's going to unfold with Georgia, Missouri. I guess the big piece of news of the last 24 hours involving this game is a report coming out of Columbia, Missouri. A number of media outlets near the Tigers program letting it be known that the expectation is that quarterback Kelly Bryant will not start tonight. In his place, Jordan Powell. Bryant, of course, a name that you're familiar with, having been at Clemson, led the Tigers to the college football playoff in 2017. Big stats for him on the year thus far, 15 touchdowns compared to just 5 interceptions, a total of more than 2,000 yards of total offense between his passing yards and rushing yards. But he has been battling a bit of a hamstring issue. Apparently, according to some sources near the Missouri program, that'll keep him out. If it is indeed Powell that starts the game tonight, Powell's much less experienced. He's only completed, or I should say attempted, fewer than 30 passes all season long. So a huge drop-off in terms of experience and certainly production. If it isn't Kelly Bryant playing quarterback for Missouri, that'll be a story worth watching as we head towards 7 p.m. in the kickoff. And, of course, the atmosphere here expected to be intense. It is another night game, and as opposed to the last night game Georgia played, there is no rain expected in the forecast. It will be cold, and it's probably colder before the game than it's been for any game thus far this season. It's going to be even colder come kickoff, but that shouldn't dampen the atmosphere any. I think folks are ready to go and ready to see the light show again and ready to really fill the stadium and make a bunch of noise for Georgia, Missouri coming a little bit later on. Of course, for Georgia, there is also the storyline of the SEC East. After beating Florida last week, it now needs a couple more games, and if it can win 2 of its next SEC East games, it'll clinch the SEC East title and be back in Atlanta for the 3rd consecutive year. It'll be the first time in Georgia program history that the Dogs have represented the SEC East and the SEC Championship for 3 straight years, if that is indeed the case, if that is indeed what goes down. And, of course, for Georgia, they want to do more than just win the 2 of 3 to clinch the SEC East. They also want to win them all and keep that position in the college football playoff race. Dogs were 6th in the initial rankings that came out on Tuesday night, and with the win tonight over Missouri, could climb even higher given the fact that 2 unbeaten teams have played each other today. Minnesota upset Penn State a little earlier. LSU is playing Alabama right now, and at last check, LSU was holding a 16-7 lead. LSU scored a touchdown a moment ago, but did have that extra point blocked. Alabama has taken a punt return back for a touchdown, and LSU's opening score came after an opening drive for Alabama where Tua Tagovailoa led the Alabama offense down the field, then fumbled near his scoring goal line. LSU then got the football back and make quick work of putting some points on the board. So an exciting game there in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, as a precursor to what's going to go on here tonight at Dooley Field at Sanford Stadium between Georgia and Missouri. With that in mind, we'll take a lot of your comments as we get ready for the DawgWalk. We should be about 5 minutes away from the DawgWalk, but these things are always subject to change depending on how quickly the buses are making their way here. But we should be pretty close to that one way or another. So let's start on Facebook here. We'll take a few of your comments. We'll pop over and do some YouTube comments there as well. And we appreciate you being a part of our Kroger Kickoff here this afternoon. Of course, don't forget, if you're getting ready for a game-watching party, maybe you've already stocked up for your tailgate. A lot of you, I know, use Kroger to make sure you've got everything that you need for that. And, of course, that's always a great choice, great savings, great opportunity to get all the food and the beverage that you need. The Red Coat Band is coming by right now. They're getting a huge ovation from the crowd. And the UGA volleyball team, which has had a very successful season thus far, also I hear saying hello to a lot of the folks in attendance. So kind of a nice thing to see there after the basketball teams have done that a little bit the last couple of weeks. All right, now we'll get some of your comments here on Facebook. We'll kind of figure out what you want to see. Jennifer Wheat Rucker says, seeing any recruits, BA? this will not be a heavily attended game for recruits, at least when it comes to the 2020 class. Let's face it, there's a pretty big party going on in Tuscaloosa, Alabama from a recruiting standpoint. But next week, though, expects to be a huge weekend for UGA recruiting. A number of big names on hand. Like Kevius Walker, for instance, will be taking his official visit. So the following week for Georgia, or I should say the following home game, 2 weeks from now against Texas A&M, the expectation is that Georgia will host a number of recruits. In terms of 2020 recruits today, I don't know that you'll see a lot of big-name 2020 guys. Obviously, this will be an opportunity for Georgia to host some 2021s and some 2022s and kind of lay some groundwork with some of those guys. But a lot of the big names from the 2020 class are in Tuscaloosa. As you might imagine, if someone offered you a free ticket for that game, you would certainly consider being a part of that. So that'll probably be the recruiting story. A lot of the 2020 guys in Tuscaloosa, but back here again for the Texas A&M game coming up in a couple of weeks. It actually works out pretty well for Georgia from a recruiting standpoint, Jennifer, on that, just given the fact that that's the sort of traditional cupcake Saturday, the Saturday before the rivalry games, where almost everyone else is playing directional state, Talladega Tech type teams. Georgia, by hosting Texas A&M, kind of gets that spotlight on the SEC calendar for themselves that day. So, as I said before, that'll be a chance to host some big recruits. Kerry Smith says big stop for LSU on 4th down, which is probably the first time we've talked a lot about defense in that game here today. There's been big plays for the offense and the special teams, including a couple miscues for Alabama. So interesting to see the defense stepping up. We have seen, from a strategic standpoint, interesting to watch Dave Aranda, the LSU defensive coordinator. Certainly, and I'm watching it on my phone, so you can only tell so much when you got this phone. But it seems like the Aranda's been content to really dial up pressure today. Obviously, they believe that Tua Tagovailoa is hobbled. That's probably with good reason, and they're going to continue to sort of dial that pressure up on him and find out just how healthy that ankle situation is coming off of surgery 21 days ago. Teresa Pope feeling pretty good about the game today. She says, I think the score will be 34-10 Dogs on top. Teresa, that sounds pretty good to me. Crowd starting to cheer a whole lot. No sign of the buses yet, but they're clearly ready for the dog walk. And here on our Kroger Kickoff, we'll bring that to you as soon as the dogs are here. Mark Wright says if Bama takes an L, that will be the number 3 and number 4 with a loss. LSU 1, Ohio State 2, Clemson 3, Georgia 4, right? Yeah, I think that there's an interesting case to be made for Georgia moving up. I also wonder, depending on what the Clemson North Carolina State score is tonight, is there a chance that the committee would ever get brave enough, given the fact there's going to be some movement anyway, to leapfrog one-loss Georgia over Clemson? Connor Riley, our on-site producer and cameraman, shakes his head vehemently in the no direction. That's probably true, but one can at least wonder about these things. Obviously, have a chance to have some fun with that right now. Craig Dukes, how about this, says 42-0 Silver Britches. I like that prediction as well. Justin Sisk having some fun at Alabama's expense right now for the deficit. Mike Mazzell feeling pretty good. He says 52-17 Dogs. John William Adams says, how about 42-10 Dogs there for that one? So a lot of predictions rolling in right now. A lot of folks also having fun with the UGA volleyball team, throwing out some T-shirts right now. The volleyball team enjoying a great year. Marshall Fleming disagreed with my point about the defense. He says the LSU defense has been strong all game long. And so, Marshall, I'll allow you to let me stand corrected on that then. A few more Facebook comments. We'll pop over to YouTube, and then we should really be very close to the start of the dog walk here. They should be here in a couple moments. Mark Godfrey having some fun here watching that game as well. There's a lot of folks checking in. Let's pop over and see what's going on YouTube as well as part of our Kroger Kickoff. And, of course, we appreciate our friends at Kroger for making all this possible. Make sure you download the Kroger app, or you add the Kroger Plus card, walk around with that all the time, because when you go into a local Kroger store, that gives you a great chance to enjoy some great savings. And, of course, we always appreciate Kroger being a part of a Kroger Kickoff here on all the Dog Nation video channels as Georgia gets ready to take on Missouri coming up in just a few minutes. Of course, during the game, I'll be live in the Dog Nation forum at forum.dognation.com. After the game, UGA bookstore for the Pella Window postgame show. And, of course, plenty of coverage at dognation.com all throughout the weekend. Over here on YouTube here for a moment, Richard Smith says 47-7 Dogs. That's his prediction for that day. That'd be a Vegas over, if you will. Green Soldier checking in. Always good to have him with us. Bearded Dog says under the lights. That means Georgia's going to hang more than 40 points. And I do believe that light show is going to be looking pretty good here tonight. A lot of Georgia fans probably warming up a little bit before they go into the game, no doubt. But I'm guessing that light show be pretty impressive here a little bit later on, much the same way it was for the Notre Dame game near the beginning of the season. Jonathan Crump also watching the LSU-Alabama game, having a good time doing that. VTW wondering if the game could get out of hand if Alabama doesn't get it together. Obviously, Alabama's kind of gotten a little bit of a shell-shock moment off the top of the game here. Their own muffed punt, the Tua Tagovailoa fumble. But But if any team was built to come back from a deficit, just given the firepower of the Alabama offense, whether Tua Tagovailoa is healthy or not, the quality of those Alabama receivers, obviously Jalen Waddle also has a punt return for touchdown already in today's game. So if any team was built to come from behind, it may be Alabama who would be capable of doing that. KDDSGB on YouTube says LSU can ball. And yeah, that's been an impressive team. I think by a resume standpoint, they've been the most impressive team in the country this year. Obviously, it's hard to argue with the results you've seen from Ohio State, and I guess statistically speaking, the Buckeyes' strength of schedule doesn't look too bad. But when you talk about quality wins, getting a comfortable win over Florida, going to Texas, beating the Longhorns, and even if Texas has not exactly been great since then, that's still a quality win for LSU. I think from a resume standpoint, I think that LSU doesn't take a backseat to anybody in the country right now. The fact that they are also leading right now in Alabama, I think says a lot. Brandon Howell says Jalen Waddle has gone to the locker room. So I guess so he went to the locker room. Connor says he's back out, so we'll keep our eye on that. That's a very important player for Alabama in this game. Bearded Dog says if LSU wins tonight and in Atlanta, they win it all hands down. That could very well be true. Green Soldier says, BA, I want another negative rushing yards performance from the elite defense of ours, and I want to see another offensive performance like we saw in Jacksonville. Let's go, Dogs. I like the idea of that, Green Soldier, and coming into this game, there's no doubt from the Georgia side, whether Kelly Bryant ends up playing or not, that one of the real expected stories is the continued dominance of this Georgia defense, or at least the curiosity to see if the Georgia defense can continue to be as strong as it has been. This is a unit that has not allowed a rushing touchdown yet this year. ESPN Stats and Info lets us know that it's been at least 20 years since any team's gone this deep in the season. Georgia plays its 9th game tonight, at least this deep into the season without giving up a rushing touchdown. According to some other stuff that I saw on Twitter, now I can't verify this. I don't know if this is true or not. This is just some tweet I saw. There have only been 2 teams in the history of college football to go an entire season without allowing a rushing touchdown. Once again, I can't verify that's true. I just saw somebody tweet that, and it sounds like it should be true, so do with that what you will. Josh on YouTube says if Bama loses badly, they're out of the playoffs. Yeah, I think this would be a really debilitating loss for Alabama if it indeed happens. There's still a lot of football left to go in this game, but if you watch the narrative that emerged before this game, now there are a lot of people who thought Alabama was going to win, but in terms of the people who more talked about the playoff implications, there was already kind of a growing narrative that LSU could withstand a loss more so in this game than Alabama could. That's probably true for 2 reasons. LSU's the one playing on the road, Alabama's the one playing at home, and frankly, you just get a little bit more credit for playing close in a road game than you do for holding court on your home stadium. The other thing is, coming into the game, LSU has played a much more difficult schedule and has collected much more impressive wins. The collective win-loss record for the Alabama opponents coming into this game tonight, well below 500. Alabama, until tonight, was one of the few teams in the country not to have played anyone in Football Outsiders FEI Top 30, for instance. So, and very few teams even in the top 50. So this is a situation where Alabama, from a resume standpoint, was a little thin and a little lacking. And obviously, we've seen non-conference champions make the playoff before. We've seen Alabama do that in 2017. But it doesn't sound like the favorability, the credibility is there for Alabama right now the way that it might have been in previous years. So Alabama, if it wants to assure itself a shot at the playoff, really needs to win this game. LSU might could get away with just playing this one closely. And for Georgia, obviously, maybe not a rooting interest on either side, but certainly a curiosity of if the Dogs take care of their business in the final 3 SEC games they'll play here in the month of November, which of these 2 teams will meet in Alabama for the SEC championship. More of your YouTube comments. We'll pop over and see some Facebook stuff too. Still no sign of those buses yet, but we should be getting really, really close to the start of the dog walk here as a part of our Kroger kickoff. VTW says our defense is built for a team like LSU. Our running game is going to limit their possessions. That could be true. Obviously that's the plan that Georgia hopes for, is that it's able to assert itself. And when you look at the way that LSU played against Florida when LSU played Florida a few weeks ago, they really got the running game going. Against a lot of teams this year, LSU's been content not to do that. But when it comes to, what Georgia does best, controlling games with its defense, using its running backs, I think you're right. That's certainly something that Georgia would try to do in that instance. Jonathan Crump says, Saban thinking this one is going to cost him a fortune. Obviously, it'll cost them certainly in terms of reputation and bragging rights if they're not able to get this done a little bit later on. And a lot of Georgia fans having a good time doing this. Dennis Wilson says, I knew Penn State was overrated, so Dennis feeling pretty good about that. If you're just missing, Minnesota did pull the upset in Minneapolis today, beating the Penn State Nittany Lions, holding off the Nittany Lions there late in that one. The Georgia buses have arrived, so we're going to swing our camera around, give you a chance to see the dog walk as it unfolds here. And, of course, we're happy to have you as part of our Kroger Kickoff. Huge crowd gathering in place for this one right now. And we'll be here in just a little bit. You'll get a chance to see those. And then it'll be Georgia and Missouri inside Sanford Stadium, Dooley Field at Sanford Stadium with the 7 p.m. kickoff. Temperatures, if I had to guess right now, probably still about 50 degrees, although it's expected to be much lower than that by the time the game really gets going. A low tonight of 35 degrees in Athens. We'll see how low that actually gets during the game. I see Harry Dog up at the beginning of the concourse here, the makeshift concourse for the dog walk. I see Georgia players starting to come off the bus. We'll be getting ready for the dog walk here in just a little bit. The American flag is flying, the Georgia flag, the G to the left, completely filled with fans. The second level of the Tate deck also completely filled with fans too. Security ever present to keep everybody at bay, but see the flags make their way through here. The Georgia even fits in your screen. Come the Georgia cheerleaders. They're warmly welcome. And that can only mean one thing, that Coach Kirby Smart and the Georgia players will not be too far behind. We'll keep our eye on a couple Georgia guys as they come through here. One of those will be Tyson Campbell. Campbell, who we thought might play last week, did not. Will for this week. Cade Mays going to be the first player to walk by. Mays first one. Ben Cleveland sporting a mohawk. Jake Fromm even more intimidating. Brian Harrion stopping by to say hello and shake some hands. Good. Offensive coordinator James Coley stopping by to say hello to a few folks. Del McGee, the running backs coach, saying hello. Trey Scott, defensive line coach, coming by. There's Nate McBride, Georgia offensive line coach, with some friends and family of his. Owen Condon. Getting ready for the Dogs and the Missouri Tigers. Trayvon Walker looking sharp with the turtleneck tonight, and the sport coat looking really nice. Very, very impressive. There's Eric Stokes in the building. He comes, gets the Zeus cheer. Zeus also rocking the turtleneck tonight, which is probably a smart choice given the lower temperatures compared to the beginning of the season. Jones. Kevin Butler occupied back in 2017. And that's the fastest dog walk we've had. Boy, they were in a hurry. They were in a hurry to get on in the stadium, I guess. I feel like they took longer than that the day it was raining. They were high stepping into the stadium today, but everybody's sharp, everybody having a good time, lots of family and friends here. It's that one moment where, after a week's worth of intense practices and after an intense game that's going to take place, they get a chance to, this may be the only time pregame they get to say hello to their friends and family, and you saw some of that right over here a moment ago. So it's going to be a big game. Stay close to DawgNation.com for status on Kelly Bryant, for status on Tyson Campbell, for any other players like Ben Cleveland and a Mohawk. It's going to be a pretty fun night here. Enjoy the game. If you're gathering with family and friends, stock up with food and beverages at Kroger. If you're watching on TV, follow along. I'll give you an eyewitness account from the press box at forum.dawgnation.com. Connor will be down on the field. And then after the game, we'll see you right after it's over with for the Pella Window postgame show. Y'all enjoy the Dogs of Missouri. We'll see you again next time for our Kroger Kickoff.